Hi everyone, I hope you're doing very well. My name is Juan and welcome back to another book review. So today we're going to talk about the great novel Fahrenheit 451 by the American writer Ray Bradbury. And if you appreciate my reviews and would like to show your support, please give this review a like and subscribe to my channel. That way this video will get to more people who might also enjoy it. Thanks. Okay, so let's talk about Fahrenheit 451, which was published in 1953, although a shorter version had been published in 1951 in Galaxy Science Fiction under the title The Fireman. Fahrenheit 451 is a dystopian novel like 1984 by George Orwell or Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, both of which I have already reviewed, so I am going to link to them here in case you have not watched them yet and are interested. So what makes the society in this novel dystopian? Well, we are sometime in the future. The location is an unnamed American city. There isn't much about this futuristic society in the novel. For instance, we don't know the exact year, but we know that we are in the 24th century and that there have been 2 atomic wars in the past. And we do know that books have been banned. No new books are published, and whenever old books are found, firemen burn them. So the job of the firemen is not to put out fires, but to cause them. And this perversion of language is something that we often find in dystopian fiction, right? How concepts change to often mean the opposite. Remember, for example, that in 1984, the Ministry of Peace oversees the war. Well, in Fahrenheit 451, firemen are charged with burning books. The protagonist of the novel, Guy Montag, is a fireman who gradually becomes disappointed with his vacuous existence. No one reads, but they also do not have meaningful conversations or think much, really. All people seem to do is watch TV, listen to the radio, and go for fast rides. As an aside, I would say that this kind of criticism to mass media that we have in some 20th century dystopian novels seems facile to me, almost lazy. But anyway, a series of events make Guy Montag read books. He comes across books and he starts reading them, and reading those books will change his life. So Fahrenheit 451 is the kind of book that should appeal to everyone who loves reading, perhaps not to the casual reader, but to people for whom reading is an important part of their lives. And if you're watching this, you're probably one of those people, right? And I say this because there is an emphasis on the importance of books and reading. It's not just about having books, it's actually about reading them. So the absence of reading is what makes this society a dystopian nightmare mostly. So Guy Montag is not an outsider, but he's not much more than a clog in the machine. In the course of the novel, he wakes up to the horrors of a society he has been part of all his life, and he will work on changing things. But he won't do that alone. He'll meet people along the way who also want to change things. And there is something, I think, about the importance of community here and the perils of extreme individualism that I think we shouldn't underestimate. Well, I think this is all I can say about Fahrenheit 451 without spoiling it for people who have not read it yet. If you want to read Fahrenheit 451, I always link to the books I review in the description box for each video. So you can buy your copy of Fahrenheit 451 at no extra cost and support my channel. How great is that? Now, I'm going to summarize the plot and talk about Fahrenheit 451 in more detail, and there will be some spoilers. So you have been warned, okay? If you don't want to hear any spoilers about this novel, you should stop watching right about now, and I will see you again soon, I hope, for another video. Okay, for those of you who are still here, thanks. I am now going to summarize the plot and share more thoughts I had on Fahrenheit 451. So the novel's protagonist is Guy Montag, who works as a fireman. But in this future version of America, instead of extinguishing fires, firemen burn stuff, and Montag's job is to burn books. Why? Because in this futuristic society, people do not read books. That's not the only thing they don't do. They also do not spend time alone, enjoy nature, have meaningful conversations, or think, really. So what do people do instead? Okay, they watch a lot of television. Everyone has giant TV sets at home. They drive fast and they listen to the radio. Everyone has a so-called seashell radio attached to their ear. So, you know, this futuristic society in the novel that Bradbury imagines is quite similar to our society in some way. So anyway, Guy Montag meets a 17-year-old girl named Clarice McClellan. She loves people and nature, so she then goes on to ask Montag questions that make him see how empty his life is. What happens next will make Guy question his life even more. So first, his wife Mildred tries to kill herself. Then he goes on to an old woman's house to burn the books she has been hiding, and he's shocked when the woman says that she would rather be burnt alive than see her books being set on fire. Later, he finds out that Clarice has been run over by a speeding car and has died. So Guy is dissatisfied with his life, to say the least, so he decides to turn his attention to a stash of books that he had salvaged from some of the fires and kept hidden at home. So Montag also stops going to work, and this worries his boss, Beatty, who goes to see him at home to find out what the hell's going on. Beatty is not shocked to find out that Montag is curious about books because, according to him, that is a phase that many firemen go through. But he also goes on to explain why books were banned. So his explanation revolves around how different minority groups were offended by books in the past. So to avoid offending people, writers were very careful about what they wrote, and all books gradually began to look the same. At some point, the whole society, according to this guy, agreed to burn books so people would not be exposed to different and often conflicting opinions, God forbid. So Beatty gives Guy 24 hours to read the books he's stolen and see if they are worthwhile, as long as he promises to burn them up at the end. Montag reads as much as he can that night, and he also asks his wife to help him go through all the books, but she refuses because she prefers to watch TV instead. So the number of books is not the only thing that overwhelms Guy, because he has never read a single book in his whole life. He also struggles to understand a lot of what he's actually reading. But he remembers that he knows a retired professor named Faber, so he goes to see him for help. Faber advises Montag to just take his time reading the books and thinking about them and the ideas contained therein. Together, Faber and Montag also come up with a plan to discredit firemen and end book censorship. Faber knows a printer who can help them reproduce books. Montag's mission will be to plant those books, those printed books, in the homes of his fellow firemen. Faber and Montag will communicate secretly through a radio earpiece. Now, after meeting Faber, Montag goes home. His wife hosts two of her friends for an evening in front of the television. But Montag is kind of annoyed by all of that, so he decides to read them a 19th century poem entitled Dover Beach by the English writer Matthew Arnold. Using the earpiece, Faber tells him to stop reading the poem, and his wife tries to save the evening by saying that firemen sometimes read poetry to show other people how useless literature is. The women, however, are so disturbed by the poem that they decide to file a complaint against their friend's husband. The following day, Guy goes back to the fire station and gives Beatty one of his books. Beatty tries to confuse him by quoting from different books. Because all those quotations are contradictory, Beatty claims that literature is actually dangerous and that books do deserve to be burned. Then a fire alarm sounds and the firemen go to answer it, including Guy. And it turns out that the alarm comes from Guy's house because Guy's wife has betrayed him. Guy is then forced to burn down his own house. Afterward, Beatty arrests him. However, Montag takes his flamethrower and burns Beatty, knocks other men out, and runs. Then this machine called the mechanical hound that firemen use attacks Guy and gives him a shot of anesthetic into his leg. However, Guy destroys the machine and manages to escape despite his numbed leg. He's able to take some books with him. So what does he do? He goes to a colleague's house, plants some books there, and sets the alarm. So he's just following the plan he made with Faber. Then he goes to Faber's place. There he finds out that some helicopters, a new mechanical hound, and a TV crew are all after him. Faber is due to go to his printer friend in St. Louis, so Guy gives him some money for the trip. Guy then changes his clothes. He decides to wear some of Faber's clothes and leaves. Despite being chased, he manages to get to the river that is at the city limit. He goes then to the countryside, and after a lot of walking, he finds a group of renegades that call themselves the Book People. He is welcomed by their leader, a man named Granger. Guy learns that there is a whole network of book lovers across the country whose members have learned the great literary masterpieces by heart. The nation is at the outset of war, and the network hopes that the books that they have memorized will help people once the war is over to rebuild civilization. So Montag is asked to learn one book by heart. In his case, it's the book of Ecclesiastes. War ensues, and after the city is destroyed and the war is over, the book people go there in search of survivors. Their goal is to rebuild civilizations with the books they have memorized. I do like the central idea of this novel and its themes, mostly what it has to say about censorship and knowledge. I don't love its critique of entertainment because, as I said earlier, I think it is facile. This idea that TV and radio are dumb just seems lazy to me. I don't think we need to take down so-called mass entertainment to highlight the importance of books. And let's face it, not all books are great either. A lot of books are crap. I still wouldn't want to see them burn, but are all books better than radio and television? You see what I mean? It is an overly simplistic way of looking at it, and I don't enjoy that. I would have preferred something a bit more subtle and sophisticated, I think. I'm also not crazy about characterization here, but when most of your characters are the result of a dumbed-down society, what can you expect, really? To me, the biggest achievement of this novel is its tone. Bradbury does a great job at making the reader feel anxious and even a little paranoid reading this. And I find the idea of a machine hound terrifying. Something that I thought was very clever is that when Guy escapes, the whole chase is broadcast live on television. And of course, this makes me think of O.J. Simpson and other live chases we've seen on TV. But this novel was published in the 1950s, and I don't think there was even the technology to broadcast something like that live yet. So I admire Bradbury's foresight. Anyway, now I would love to hear what you have to say about Fahrenheit 451. So please let me know your thoughts if you have read this novel. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think about it? And if you haven't read it yet, let me know what you think of my review, and if you think now that you've watched this video review, you will read Fahrenheit 451. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends on social media. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram @BookishIslander so we can talk about books on other platforms. This is all from me. I hope to see you again very soon for another book review or bookish video. Bye for now.